So Sarah Ingham has decided to reveal all, and that's a frightening prospect, even for the lovely Chris Ingham. He doesn't like to see Sarah in all her finery. But no, she's decided to reveal what goes on behind the scenes and how busy they are and their routine for their children specifically, and you will be surprised. Trust me, you will not be actually not at all surprised, probably, but it is going to knock your little socks off, right? So she starts off. This was posted in the super secret group that nobody can get a hold of because it's so secret. Why not have a predator in amongst all the iFam that's secret that you can't get at yourself to check to see if Chris is behaving himself? Isn't that right, Chris? Or is it only Carol you DM these days? Slipping into Carol's DMs like a maverick that you are. Anyway, alright, so Sarah has said this. Thank you so much for this question, Sam, and your compliment. Always got to compliment Sarah, otherwise she's not going to answer you in the best possible way. She's going to call you a hater and a troll and a hater troll, right? So you got to say ILMSM, no, ILYSM. I love you so much. Yeah, that's what it is. Otherwise you don't get a decent response from them. We do lead a very busy life, she says. It's actually a lot busier than it sometimes looks on the vlogs. Yeah, really. At the moment, it looks like you're driving through a snowstorm in the Arctic. Is it busier than that, is it? What exactly could you possibly be doing in that tiny van that isn't what you're vlogging? Because there's not much room there, I'm thinking. Obviously, we only film the fun parts. Yeah, like life-threatening emergencies. Can't get much more fun than that. But behind the scenes, it's often, / almost, always very busy. I think you have to be quite laid back to live the life we do. Is it busy or laid back? That's the question, because they're kind of contradictory terms. Anyway, not let things bother you too much, not worry about absolutely everything. If things go wrong or not the way you expect. So, yeah, I guess you need to not worry about the little things, and that's why you're not bothered about Chrissy's package, right? Am I right? Am I right, Sarah? I know I'm right. So you don't worry about what Chris has done, right? Obviously, because messaging barely legal teens is it's not a good thing, obviously, but you need to move on from it, and we should all move on from it, shouldn't we? Because, yeah, we're holding a grudge over you. I know we're holding a grudge, but it is what it is. Chris has been caught out with his trousers down, pretty much almost. If he had his way, he would have had his trousers down, wouldn't he? Although with one iFam he did. So, there you go. But, yeah, you need to be laid back. You need to forget about things. Just release, isn't it? You need to release the tension. And Chris does that a lot. I'm making a lot of jokes here, aren't I? So, yeah, laid back yet busy lifestyle. Got it. Be able to see the bright side or make the best of the situation. Unless you can do all of these things, this life wouldn't work for you. It it helps to have a schedule, but don't be too strict about it. And the main thing for me is to trust my own gut and instincts on what works for my family instead of being influenced by the norm. Oh, that dreaded norm, that you wake up in cold sweats at night about, isn't it? I love how she always calls it my family. I know it's her family, but it's just the way she says it. Maybe it's the tone I'm reading it in, I don't know. But, my family, they belong to me, my children, my kids. They're not actually just yours, the Chris's as well. At least half of them anyway. Sorry. So, for example, lots of children go to bed at 7 p.m. That doesn't work for us. And years back, I would panic about it due to the influence of others. I have to ask, though, why does that not work for you? What about putting your kids to bed at 7 p.m. does not work for you, all right? You don't have a busy lifestyle. Even back in the day, before what it is you do now, your life wasn't that busy. You were a stay-at-home mum, right? So you were able very comfortably to like get up, do what you need to do during the day, look after the kids, send the kids to school, pick them up from school, make dinner during the day, and feed them in time for bed at 7, right? Very comfortably. You had no problems doing that. You weren't going out to work, right? You weren't. Chris was, all right? I know back in the day he would go out to work. Bizarrely, he couldn't get a job now for love of the money. But back in the day, you were able to put your kids to bed at 7, 100%, no problem at all. So why would that not work for your family? Your family was pretty standard. So, please let me know if I have this wrong. But as far as I'm aware, you had no problem sticking to that time. She goes on to say, it was actually when I spoke to my midwife after I had Mila that I 100% fully accepted that it was actually okay for my children to go to bed later, because that's what worked for our family. But again, why did they need to go to bed later because it worked for your family? It doesn't make any sense. You didn't have a lifestyle in order to have to keep to your kids going to bed later. Because if I remember rightly, right, okay, so Sarah, you said on one occasion that your kids were not allowed to get up at 8 o'clock because that to you was the middle of the night, right? Which is a very, very weird thing to say. Most people are not only up, but they're out for work by 8 p.m, but 8 a.m. rather. And for you, it's the middle of the night. And if your kids get up that early, God help them, right? So I would suggest this is actually the reason your kids go to bed late is because you never allowed them to get up early, right? Because Sarah Ingham doesn't get up early. God help anybody that wakes Sarah up, right? You don't get up early, so your kids don't get up early. That is it. It's not what works for our family, it's what works for me. I want to go to bed, or I want to sleep in. I don't want to get up until about 10 a.m. So my kids can't get up at that early because I'm not going to be up. And therefore they have to go to bed later so that they can get up later. And that is the long and short of it. Having your kids stay up until 10, 11, even midnight is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It's not even fun. I mean, there's a reason. I mean, it's slightly different times now, but there's a reason why the more adult type TV was shown at night. It's because kids weren't up to watch it, right? So I'm not quite sure why your kids need to be up that late. You know, the actual answer here lies in Sarah Ingham. You know, you get up early, sacrifice yourself in order to have your kids have a routine, and that's what they need, is a routine. But everybody has to bow down to Sarah Ingham's sleep. So she goes on to say, so basically the best way I find to keep up this life is to relax and be comfortable in doing it our way, without guilt or comparisons to other parents and what they do. Knowing what works for us and that being okay. I'm sorry to labour this point, but it's really frustrating. But she keeps saying what works for our family. It's not that. I could understand it, okay, if Sarah had to work all night, right? Sarah Ingham had to work all night. She was out all night. She had like a nursing job or something. And she had to work all night. She came home and then had to sleep for much of the day. I could understand that as having to work around her work situation. That is, a thing. But what she's talking about is she has nothing on the whole day, just nothing on. She can sleep as normal. She can go to bed at like whatever normal time for an adult, and then sleep through the night, wake up, and then get on with her day. But she doesn't, because she doesn't want to wake up at a normal time, so the kids can't. And I know I've been through this point already many times, but it's frustrating me because she doesn't get it. Right, it's all about Sarah Ingham. So she goes on to say, now we don't need to put our kids to bed at 7 p.m. just because 70% of other parents do. Same with education. Just because your child sat at a desk for 6 hours a day doesn't mean mine need to. No, I'm on board. As long as they do the work that's required of them. This gets very interesting, very spicy now, right? That's required of them by the end of each week. It doesn't matter if they do a few hours each day or none for 2 days, and then more hours the rest of the week. If they want Friday off, they catch up on Sunday. It feels like things are so much easier when you feel comfortable enough to do things on your own schedule rather than trying to match everyone else's. Feel like I've ranted. Does this actually answer your question? No, Sarah, it doesn't answer my question. So basically you're saying that the kids can work when they want, if they want, literally if they want, right? What if they don't want to work? Have you ever turned around to your child, and this would be a very interesting topic actually, have you ever turned around to your child and say, "Oi, you need to get and do some schoolwork. Have you done your schoolwork?" Or do you just say, "Oh well, you don't want to work today? Well, you do it next week if you want. It's fine. Don't worry about it. There's no limitations here at the Ingham School of Excellence. No, you don't need to, bow down to societal pressures or anything like that. You just do it in your own time." Or have you actually said ever to your child, "Where's your work? Have you done your work?" Because I guarantee it, and I know there are kids out there that would be like right on it, and some kids work tirelessly and they're very into academics, right? And they want to do the schoolwork and everything else like that. But the majority of children, if left to their own devices, will get on their own devices, if you understand, right? Do you take their phones away from them whilst they're on doing their schoolwork? Do you monitor what activity they're doing on their iPad or on their laptop? Do you do any of that? Because I cannot see for the life of me that all of your children, maybe one or two, I don't know, right? But I cannot see for the life of me that all of your children go up to their bedrooms and just sit there and study and do their schoolwork. I can't see it. I'm sorry. In particular, Esme, who has recently announced that her plans for the future is to be a YouTuber slash influencer. It's a good career ambition, that is. I don't think you need schoolwork for that, do you? So what is she doing all day? Is TikTok her education? Is because I can actually see Sarah and Chris saying, right, Esme, get upstairs and practice your TikToks. Practice your TikToks and you'll be famous in the future. You don't need English or maths. You don't need to be able to count. You don't need to be able to do your accounting or count up your pennies. No, God no. You just need to know how to lip sync to Taylor Swift, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. So yeah, is that what's happening? You actually leave your kids to their own devices to decide when and where or if they do education. I would be very, very surprised if Esme was doing any form of education, right? And her GCSEs should be in a couple of months. She's not obviously doing any, but she, that's her GCSE year. It's coming up now. All her peers are doing GCSEs. She must feel really left out. Or does she? Speaking of education and qualifications, we find out that Isabel is doing pretty well. All right? She's doing pretty well for herself, so don't be bashing Isabel, all right? Sarah replies to Carol, lovely Carol, says home education doesn't even mean no degree. Isabel could still get a psychology degree if she wants. Despite not taking all of her GCSEs, she still managed to do A-levels and go on to further if she wants. That's what's good about HE, higher education. Concentrate on what you're actually interested in. True. Very true. But is she doing it? That's the question. Because doing A-levels without GCSEs, pretty difficult, right? If you're not educated to GCSE level, then trying to do like psychology A-level is pretty hard, I would say, pretty hard. Not least because you need English, definitely, to be able to do psychology, because doing all the coursework and stuff like that. Also, it incorporates quite a few other type of subjects which you need at GCSE level. So I'm just saying it's not the easiest subject. Plus, if Isabel is able to study to the required amount of level, the required amount of time for A-levels, I would be absolutely astounded, right? From what I understand, A-levels are pretty tough. They're not a walk in the park, and yet apparently she is doing it whenever she wants, if she wants. Some days she's not even picking up a pen, right? Because she is travelling in a van. She's in the Arctic right now. How's she doing at A-levels? That's my question. It's absolutely incredible how Isabel gets through life, isn't it? Absolutely. But that wasn't all that Sarah had to say about the education system. She said, I also don't agree with some of the things taught in schools and wish other subjects were taught instead. What kind of other subjects? I'd be very interested to hear that, Sarah. And I also mentioned this on the vlog the other day, but I'm not sure if Chris will include it or not. But I also don't agree that children should be in a classroom with the same 30 children for 7 years. Obviously, there are pros and cons to both. At high school, especially, right, kids kept cooped up with the same children for like the whole day, every day for 7 years. They tend to mix with other kids. Like in my school, right, when I went to school, there was like 200 kids in my year. I didn't know them all personally, but I knew of them. I knew them from around. You know, you mix and you have different classes with different kids. That's the beauty of high school, right? You get to meet a lot of people. And she goes on to say, though usually we only ever hear the negative side, but I think it's fantastic my children have friends from all around the world, all ages, all races and religions. Your kids have friends all around the world, do they? Where IFAM don't count, right? They actually don't count. I'm sorry, IFAM, but you don't count as friends, right? You don't. I'm assuming that she's talking about people from Dubai, right? Not your friends. You met them once because you were there once, but not your friends. And that's the religion and the race, right? Such a wide variety of people. I never understood the whole they should only be playing with kids the exact same age as them thing. There's literally no other time in your life you're expected to be with a group of people exactly the same age as you. Well, not necessarily. Again, growing up, I had friends of different ages, but I think it's important to have them roughly the same age. You know, like kids are growing up at different levels and at different rates and have different interests based on those development rates, right? So yeah, I'm not saying they have to be cooped up with 30 kids all of the same age for 7 years, you know. But yeah, that's Sarah Ingham's take on societal norms and her way of living life and her way of doing life. Although, you know, Chris Ingham could be doing life himself at some point. You never know, can you? Yeah, that was quite the interesting take on life from the Inghams, Sarah in particular. So if you have appreciated this video, please give it a massive thumbs up, comment all of your thoughts about it down below, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and bye-bye. Oh yes.